Hello, everyone. Dave Bush here with Kansas Sports HQ, Episode 7. Kansas Collegiate League Baseball is our topic. Good morning, Sheldon and Sean. How are you guys today?
Doing good.
Doing good.
The energy is high.
I was going to say doing better, but I just would like one up some shit.
You were feeling bad?
I was going to say better.
Oh, better than good.
I was like, at least
That's a good thing, though.
So let's recap a little bit of last night's events. Kansas City pulled away in the evening for Monday Night Football. Second half, Patrick Mahomes went off.
Domination.
And then we saw an 18-inning World Series game with Freddie Freeman with the walk-off. That man's just built for those moments. As a longtime Brave fan, he holds a special place in my heart, but it's still the Dodgers.
Did he make it to the end of the game?
No. Once Kershaw came in and closed out that inning, I was like...
What inning did he come in?
Like 13.
I didn't know. What time did it end?
I think I went to bed in the 12th, and it was already 11 something.
Yeah, at their time, it ended at 11:58.
Yeah,
So it would have been 1:58?
Yeah.
12:58.
So
12:58?
I think.
it's
Well,
2 hours.
Yeah,
it's
if they were
2 hours.
West.
It's 2 hours.
Yeah. So, the people who stayed up late to watch the game, probably
Rippers.
crawling into work.
Well, that's weird because
Yeah.
I thought, I was on YouTube TV and I wasn't looking at my phone or anything because I was watching the Chiefs. And then after that, I was like, it said MLB post game. So I clicked on that and it was poker.
Yeah, because there was no post game yet.
But it was it was poker. So I don't know if.
Oh, the game was definitely still going on when the Chiefs
That's
were
weird.
up.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was just over. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't think anything of it and just moved on.
I was telling him when we came in, like, Toronto they were pushing everything. Ball in the outfield, send them. Like, they were putting pressure every chance that they could get.
That's not surprising.
And they
Got thrown out every
single
time.
Yeah, like every single time.
Execution of relays was just lights
Dodgers,
out, just ridiculous. And then, of course, Shohei Ohtani going 4 for 4, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 5 walks. Saw the plate 9 times.
It's not a bad day at the ballpark.
Not a bad day at the ballpark at all. So,
freak of nature.
But that's an awesome way to lead us into our topic today, which is Kansas Collegiate League Baseball. And no one better to have here than the commissioner, Sheldon Howell. Hey. So
is he still coming in?
No, I don't. Oh, yeah.
So Sheldon, let's talk about the Kansas Collegiate League Baseball, what it's about, and the mission behind that. As you're the commissioner.
Yeah. Well, KCLB obviously is going to be a hot topic for the pod. We're going to do a bunch of different interviews and kind of dive into, I wouldn't say it's the driving factor behind why we're kind of doing this, but it is going to be a big piece of it. And I just, part of the motivation behind what we're wanting to do with everything is highlighting our guys that come and play in the league and are part of kind of what I would consider like our extended family. So they have really cool stories and all kinds of things, which we'll get more into later and get some different people on. But just brief history. Let's kind of start there, and if you guys can chime in some questions along the way. But, kind of came on the scene. The KCLB actually we rebranded from a different league long time ago. The league was actually called the Walter Johnson League. Walter Johnson League is what I played in.
Yeah, but who'd you play for?
I don't even remember, dude.
When you were in the Walter Johnson, who did you play for?
There was a whole different team structure. I'm trying to remember. It was like who the heck were those? We had the Wheat Kings, I think, was a team that was inside of that at one point in time. This is aging me. We've had so many freaking team names and different things along the way. Marlins were after that. Marlins were a part of one of the KCLB league structures there. But I was with my story with that was with the Cannons. I did everything that I did with the Cannons, and a part of their organization, kind of coming up. But there was a couple different teams that I think I was kind of playing with, but they weren't really around. The Wheat Kings was like a big makeshift kind of put together thing that they were trying to do some things, but they had some different teams. I think I did some spot starts with them and played a couple games with them back in the day. That was a long time ago, so I really don't remember. I don't even remember who ran that club. It was
I think that we need a little bit of a history lesson on, why you rebranded from Walter Johnson to the Kansas Collegiate League Baseball. I know there was some drama. Do we want to talk about
there's all
that?
kinds of stuff, man. All kinds of stuff. But I started out, like I said, with the Cannons. The Cannons were really kind of my kind of shoe in to everything with the collegiate circuit around here. So eventually I was coaching with the Cannons as well too. That was kind of the first piece of being involved there. And that's how I knew I wanted to be in, collegiate summer ball. I just thought it was cool, had fun with it, like enjoyed all of the different, relationships, got to coach some guys that played locally, but then also guys that were coming in from out of state. And it was a cool culture. Like there was some fun pieces to that I liked. I also was working with mentor of mine, Coach Dukes, who was the head coach of the team. And, I forget what it was that we won. We won like it was like a regional tournament thing that they used to have around here. I don't think they have that anymore. What that was called. I'm bad about some of the names a long time ago. I had too many names in my Rolodex of people nowadays. I kind of forget my own stuff. But, um, that was like my first, kind of cool coaching experience was being a part of a team that was playing, it was a wood bat league. We were kind of playing for a berth to, go into the postseason and that whole kind of bit that was outside of school ball. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. Obviously went back to school ball and still had, college stuff, kind of mixed in there as well too. Other playing experiences. I had other stuff outside of, the Walter Johnson at that point in time. I played in the Mink League, which was another one that's close to here. So, I played summer ball pretty much every single summer during my playing career and was just involved with a lot of different teams. And like I said, I played some pickup ball on some teams when I was here at home, and just baseball was life, right? So I was just trying to play as much as I possibly could play. But when Dukes kind of brought the idea to me of, hey, like, would you be interested in kind of working, behind the scenes? It was a little bit of a transition because I didn't know exactly if that was something that I really wanted to do. I think, a lot of baseball guys kind of get into that same spot where they're like, yeah, I just really know the game. Like, I want to be around the game. I want to do stuff with the game. I don't know if I really want to be a suit, as they say. And not that we necessarily do that now, but we've redefined that a little bit. But yeah, so he brought that as an opportunity to me, and it was just like this perfect storm of timing with everything, which obviously, kind of works out as God's plan. But I had Parisi that was starting at the same time. Dukes was talking to me about doing this KCLB thing, and I was like everybody, I was like, what the hell is that? Like, I don't know what that even means.
So did Dukes come up with the KCLB, or is that okay? So the rebrand was you and Dukes.
Well, it was Brian and Dukes. Those were the two. Brian technically was the guy who was kind of coming behind the scenes and really starting all of these projects. He was, the money kind of behind the scenes, and then Dukes was kind of the figurehead at that point in time. And I was just the little grunt worker that was willing to just do whatever needed to be done and just trying to find my seat at the table, basically. And so I was kind of a fly on the wall and just learning as much as I could, and just whatever they said they needed, I was trying to do. So I did that for, I want to say that was in probably 2015 was when all of these pieces really kind of started coming together. So they probably were working on it in 2014, 2013, 2014. When they purchased the league, there was some kind of drama a little bit around that even, which I don't even think that they knew at that point in time. But when Brian bought it from the guy that he bought it from, it came with a team as well too. And then also in the paperwork, it also came with the tournament, which that ended up being some drama down the road, which they didn't even really know at that point in time. So the guy was kind of selling something that he didn't really even have the rights to sell. But
the regional tournament.
Yeah, I want to say they called that the Midwest Regional, but I don't know if that's misquoting. I'm not 100% positive.
Leading into the other tournament that plays here in Wichita.
Yeah. So they thought that they were purchasing not only the baseball league, they thought that they were getting Park City as a team as well too, which they did, but then they also thought that they were getting this regional tournament that everybody like plays in,
Hmm.
right? So they kind of thought it was like a full package thing, and I remember the paperwork. I still have the paperwork somewhere because I save everything, but it literally like states that in the signed contract that these guys are buying, and I wasn't involved with any of that. I was just, I picked that up afterwards. But so they get all that stuff bought. They're like, okay, now we own the Walter Johnson, yada yada yada. They're doing all the paperwork, and then Dukes is like, hey, we're gonna change the name. We want to rebrand it. I was like, yeah, like I agree. When I hear Walter Johnson, I just think like Little League. Like it
Sure.
just sounds like a Little League. And I know there's a lot of history behind that name, and not to, discredit that or take that, badly. I just think of Little League when I hear that. And he did too. And I think most people kind of did. And so he wanted to change the name to something that kind of goes like with Major League Baseball, right?
Sure. A
LB.
little more premier.
Yeah, it sounds more professional. It just kind of, our whole thing is we want to track towards, professional ball. And so when you think Major League Baseball, he was like, okay, well, we're in Kansas and we're a collegiate league. So Kansas Collegiate League Baseball.
And so, well, time out. So many people, so many people automatically just go Kansas Collegiate Baseball League
Every time.
every time, and
Every time.
KCBL this, KCBL that.
Yep.
The correction is Kansas Collegiate League Baseball.
Correct.
It is not called the Major Baseball League. It is called
Correct.
the Major League Baseball.
Correct.
So, for all those who need a little clarity on that,
Well, and he was, I think, slightly kind of ahead of the curve in that, because when you think, why don't they call it Major Baseball League? You know what I mean? Like it's, so he was following on brand with baseball.
Sure.
And I think that was kind of a cool idea. It definitely has been a something that we got to explain to everybody, kind of a thing. But it also helps us, as you guys know now. It separates us in the college space, because every college summer league is the other way, right? Every single one of them is baseball league. Very rarely do you see one that's league baseball. So
Sure.
I always thought it was kind of cool. So we started, he basically kind of started designing that stuff. And at that point in time, I was really just the communications guy. Like I was just kind of involved in making sure that teams were communicating with each other. He'd give me a task of some things to do, and I would essentially just, execute those things, whatever it was. Worked on the website a lot. Back then, is when they switched over to what we've used in the past, which is Sports Engine. So I was learning Sports Engine, trying to figure all that nonsense out, the scoring system.
So it hasn't really been updated since.
It's just changed a bunch. But yeah, so we were, and just imagine the people that we have around the league now. And back then I'm trying to explain apps, Wi-Fi, like this type of stuff to these coaches that don't know their own password on their phone. They can't make it, they don't text each other, like they call, like it's a totally different time frame of life back then in comparison to what things are like now. And they were all old dudes, like older guys, I should say. So they were very stuck in the ways, pen and paper, everything was done literal by books, like it was an outdated
good old
system.
days.
Yeah, pretty much. Just outdated.
times.
And trying to get all these guys to read an email. We had a couple guys that were good at certain things, and they helped me tremendously. But then it was just a uphill battle is what I would call it. But so that's kind of how it started out, was just, working behind the scenes with those guys and trying to figure out, who's doing what, how do we make sure that everything works. And that was kind of my first experience of, watching the teams outside of coaching, right? So like outside of the baseball side, and kind of just being involved on the back end side. And things went well. I mean, I learned a lot. I wasn't involved in many of the decision making portions of things. I was involved with the league meetings. I went and talked to the guys, like got to know them a little bit, but I was really just trying to keep things moving the right direction. And that's kind of all that portion of that job was. But I learned a lot, and just kind of things as things started to progress. Really kind of, there's a lot of little stuff, but really the big thing was Dukes wanted to expand, right? Like that was the goal of the league as a business, him and Brian. They wanted the league to expand, and they wanted to find good talent. They wanted to find competitive ball clubs to play, right? Like they were, in that growth mentality, trying to do different things. And so we went. I remember this meeting like it was yesterday. We were starting to talk to different locations, find different people, go to these smaller towns that were around us here, and try to essentially just pitch different places. To start teams or be involved with teams and do different things. And he had a good relationship with Rick Twyman, who was the manager down in Wellington, and we went down there and sat down with him.
Is that before? Was it Wellington then, or was it Hayesville?
No, it was Wellington.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went down, met with Rick, sat there for a whole evening. It got, animated and just all over the place. But it was good. And, ultimately the conclusion of that meeting was that, he wanted to make a move from the then Jayhawk, which is no longer around. And so he wanted to make a move, and make a long story short, the reason he was trying to make a move was because the Jayhawk, they did nothing but travel. Like they were essentially an extension of a collegiate style program where, you're going to play, the same amount of home and away games, and it just rotates every year. You're going to travel out, you're going to be on the road for this many days. You come home for this many days, right? Like just kind of like a minor league style schedule.
Pretty cost heavy for summer collegiate baseball.
That's exactly what it was. Is he kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, dude, we can't afford to continue to do this. Like we're going to get to a point where things just aren't going to make sense anymore. And so we kind of came back to the drawing board and we're like, okay, well, and preface this, Wellington was the best team. Like hands down, they beat everybody. Like it wasn't even in question. Like they dominated the Jayhawk. They regionally, they just were one of the best teams in the country at that point in time in the summer times. Probably just from a world piece, like they could play with everybody. Rick did a really good job on a lot of different fronts back then, and they had heavily talented players back then. And a lot of that's changed, obviously, just in general with collegiate summer ball as is, like in the way that things have moved around. But they were a powerhouse. Like they were really, really, really good. So we come back and we're like, dang, like this team wants to join the league. Like, okay, like, all right, we're going to have to figure some of this stuff out, like, what do we do here now? Like if it basically be like getting the Yankees to go to the NL, I guess, like, like they flip flop sides and you're going to put a powerhouse team onto another league. We knew not only it was going to shake up the other league, it was going to do different things, but it was kind of it was a mutual agreement in that aspect of solving a need and a problem for them, but then also helping us expand and move into a direction. And so we come back, and this is where it all kind of started. I mean, it was the birth of a lot of things, but also like the end of a lot of things too. But we come back and have some conversations with the other teams, right? So Dukes is essentially going around, talking to other teams, having conversations with all of them, getting their opinions, right? Like before we take this to a league vote and get everything kind of put together with this, like, what does everyone think, right? Like, let's make sure that this makes sense. And I think that I still kind of carry that same mentality now with what we do in the league. Like at the end of the day, like if all of the league teams aren't on the same page, like if we all don't want it to be a thing, then it's not going to be a thing, right?
Implosion.
We want everybody to be on the same page because that's how you move forward together as one unit. So that's what he did. And I learned that lesson from him. I watched this, like I sat in those meetings, right? So I can remember these guys having these one-on-one conversations where they go and sit down and they're like, dude, this is awesome. Like the Wellington Heat want to play like in our league. Like, and these are older guys. So they're animated. Like you can see like their ears are kind of perking up. They're kind of like, oh, wow. Like, that's going to put us on the map. Like that's going to, like, and everybody's all excited. Like everybody's all excited. And so we get to the end of the season, because obviously we're in the middle of the summer at that point in time. We get to the end of the season and we go and we're having this big old meeting. It's a league meeting at the end of the year. And I won't name names and get into all the fine details, but we get into a meeting, and during this meeting, everything just hits the fan. Everything takes like a complete 180 turn on all of this stuff. And to kind of make a long story short, it started with one guy And this one guy basically started saying, well, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, like, bringing in Wellington's really going to make us like have to work harder. Like, we're going to have to like probably recruit better players. And like, we're going to have to, if we got to get better players, then we kind of have to get more host families. And like, like that's just a lot more work. I just don't know if I really want to do more work. And I'm like, again, like I know my place, like I know my role, I know where I'm at. Like, so I'm not in that meeting, like voicing an opinion because that's not my job. And I'm just sitting here watching this stuff unfold. And I'm like, like just that tennis in my eyes are just going back and forth watching these guys. And it started with one guy. There was a couple guys in that room that stayed pretty steadfast, and they were, like they wanted the growth and they wanted to see those things. But you could just tell where this behind the scenes stuff was happening and where these guys were kind of, working against what they had actually said in person.
So who's putting the gloves on and who's not?
Right. Like it was turning into this coup that was happening right in front of us. And I quite literally was eating popcorn, just watching it and sitting on the sidelines. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. But, and what that boiled down to, and it got heated. Like it was a heated grown man meeting. Like it was one of the craziest things that I had witnessed in person. But I also witnessed some betrayal. Like I witnessed people go back on their word. I witnessed people straight up lie. Like it was wild to watch happen. And then it was also kind of crazy to see this power dynamic kind of shift of these people who really just wanted to be in control. And really what it kind of boiled down to was a couple of the teams that were at the top of the league, they changed their minds on having to compete against Wellington, right? Because these were the teams on top of the league that were just winning every year, right? And they were just beating up on the teams that were on the bottom. So then they started the whole thing of like, well, you guys, like, we're already beating you guys every year. Like, do you guys really want to lose more games to Wellington? Like this victim mindset of like, like, oh man, like you're just going to stay down there on the bottom. So then it just kept going, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control. And they had already, I'm pretty sure at that point in time, I don't know this to be 100% sure, but they had already kind of made this decision to make this switch and do these different things and all this stuff. And that was just their opportunity to like kind of stab it in the side and, kind of do the whole bit. But it was a crazy meeting. So out of that meeting, after everything kind of eventually cooled down and the conversations all kind of happened and, all the stuff, it was basically this crossroads, right? So KCLB was, we were the KCLB at that point in time. We were at a crossroads, and the crossroads was, are we going to chase the guys that obviously are not necessarily trying to elevate, right? They're not trying to put the things, they put the work up there as important and trying to make the organizations better, do what's best for the kids, like actually do the things? Or are we going to try and just convince the guys that essentially have already kind of shown all their cards that they just want to do what's best for them? Right? They want to put their organizations in the best possible position. They're not looking at it from a league mentality. They're looking at it from a, well, my organization mentality, and I only want it to be this way. And I only want, my team to have the best opportunities at all times. And that was a big crossroads for me. And like I said, on the surface, I wasn't really involved, like saying anything with all the guys, wasn't my place. But behind the scenes, me and Duke's talking and going through those things. I'm like, dude, like, no shot. Like, if we want this thing to be a real thing and we want this to be the direction that we want it to go, like, we've got to stick to our guns and do the right thing, right? Like, I always live by that. Like, the right thing is always the right thing. And it may be harder, it may be more difficult, it may be whatever, but if it is the right thing, it is the right thing, and you got to find ways to do it. And so through those conversations, that took a toll on him. And I will say that because he, put a lot of legwork into that, and a lot of different things happened with that whole bit as well, too, because we had other teams, right? So we were not only approaching, actually, Wellington approached us. So not only were we approached by Wellington, but we also approached two other cities at that point in time that essentially we were trying to get to come in, right? They were looking to expand. And during that time frame, that's when there was stuff said, at those league meetings and all that type of stuff about the KCLB and about Dukes and about that stuff, kind of guys talking under the table. And then those deals kind of went sour as well, too. Right. So, and that took a toll, like that took a toll on, the staff and just what was going on, because some of that stuff was just out of our control and wasn't true. And they eventually, the people that said those things, after they did the damage, then they showed up and said, sorry, we shouldn't have said that. We shouldn't have done that. And it's like, oh, well, that's great. Like, really appreciate it now. Like, you already ruined, multiple deals for us. It's nice that you're going to say it now. But yeah,
it doesn't rebuild the bridge that was set on fire.
Not at all. Yeah. And it was, it was big time stuff, like these were, and I learned a lot in that with business and, just how to operate and learn what to say, when to say, how to say, like that type of, those life lessons that kind of go into that. But needless to say, that was the crossroads, right? So that was the crossroads with the KCLB was, so now Dukes, who was, essentially commissioner at that point in time, he was checked out. Like he felt like, and honestly, like I do think, and I believe this, not that he said this, but they were professional relationships, but like these were also like his friends in my brain. Like, these were the guys that he worked with all the time. They did different things together. Like they spent a lot of time together. And then to watch this meeting unfold the way that it did and all these things that were said and all this stuff, like it mentally took a toll on him.
Sure.
And so at that point in time, he was like, dude, I'm bowing out. He was like, this is supposed to be baseball. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be enjoyable. And the fact that I just went through this entire thing, I did all this work for these guys, basically because they said they wanted this. And they told us at the league meeting, this is what they wanted. We had individual meetings with them. They said this is what it was. So he was being a steward for those guys. And then basically they just 180'd him on his face. And it was bad news. So anyway, he bows out. And never forget this either. He was like, Sheldon, it's yours. Like, I'm going to give you a dumpster fire and you can run with it, or the KCLB is essentially just going to disappear. And he was like, that's essentially your options.
So it disappeared.
It almost did. Yeah. Like it legitimately, I'm not too big to admit that I was scared. Like I was like at a point, not only in my career where I had no experience, like just a little bit of experience I've been with him, but managerial wise, like running something like that, like doing that side of stuff, I had no clue, and I have the text messages that I sent him still. Like I'll find those and read some of that, because I was just like, dude, like these people know you, they don't know me. Like they've seen me sitting on the sidelines, but so they may know my face, but they don't know me, like, because this guy coached me in high school, mentored me through college, like, so he knows me, but these other guys didn't know me. And I'm like, dude, there's just no way. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like no clue how I can get this thing off the ground and get it rolling, because what I was looking at was, we had Park City, we had the Cannons, and then we had Wellington. That was it, right? And so I'm like, well, that's not a baseball league. Like how in the world do we make that work? And that's where our conversations all went and talked and, trying to figure things out. But, needless to say, like I just put my big boy pants on and was just like, you know what? Like, dude, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? I tell myself that all the time, right? If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Quit bitching and do the work. Straight up. Like, I was like, dude, don't be a little bitch. Like, just do the work.
So what was the time frame of this all? So you just went through that whole entire thing of how you got from when you got involved in the KCLB to when you essentially were handed the reins. How long of a time was that?
I think it was about a year and a half.
15 into 16 and a half.
15 probably into 16. So before the 17 summer, I think.
So when you
right around there,
when you take over the league with the three teams, the Cannons, the Rangers, and the Heat, had you just played a summer, or was it not happening?
Yeah, we would have just finished.
So, but they still had an issue with the way things were going during that entire summer? Or?
No. That's kind of the part of, so this whole meeting and when all of this happened, it happened at the end of, I think it was the 2017 season. I think that was probably when it was.
So kind of like a winter meeting,
so the Heat were
no, this was in like the postseason tournament. at the end of the summer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, we still had teams playing at the end of the summer, like, finishing up the year, and we were
Sure.
having, like, a postseason tournament.
Knockdown, drag out.
Yeah.
So the Heat were already part of the league?
No, they were coming in.
They were coming in.
For the 2018 season then.
Yeah, I think it would have been 2018.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
And then, so when you were going through all this as the person, the fly on the wall, and observing to eventually taking over, and some people, it does a year and a half of craziness essentially.
Mhm.
And then, so I think there's a lot of times today, people start something, and if they don't see results right away, they give up on it. So what in your mind, other than like you just said, stop being a bitch and put your big boy pants on, what in your mind made it worth it to stick around and keep rolling?
I, as I have said multiple times, like, I'm 0% or 100%. Maybe that's a fault of mine. I don't know, but
It
that
is.
that was my mentality, and I think ultimately, like, now trying to reflect back on those points in times, I was coaching. I started coaching Parisi at that point in time, right? And mind you, I made, Duke's probably paid me, $500, or something like that. Like, that's probably the amount of money that I had made from doing baseball, right? In a 2-year time frame, right? We didn't have any money at all. And so my passion for the game was definitely the fuel to my fire, right? Just being around the game. But then I also think that there was this, like, deep, like, sense of, like, I don't know what you want to call that. Like, I knew what happened to him was wrong. And so for me to not be able to figure it out and make something successful from it, in my head felt like I was failing him. Although that's, he would tell you that that's nowhere near what he said or came out of his mouth or whatever. But that's what
That's like pride and ownership of your role.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like what you did for the organization and how you were a part of it. That's like taking pride and ownership and then trying to fix things.
Yeah.
Stand cape.
Well, I had those, those thoughts and those feelings about it, but it was, my wife would tell you, it's just my ever loving desire to always be right. But the reality is like, I felt that what happened to him was not cool. And the picture that was painted after this dude was giving effort, energy, love, passion, like doing all of these different things. It wasn't like he was making any money, like he was doing all of these things for the betterment of all of these guys. And then it was like they stabbed him in the back right in front of me. Like I was watching a sitcom movie or something. Like it was wild. And so I had this deeply rooted thing where it was just like, man, I'm not going to let them win. Like, I'm not going to let them destroy something that he was fighting so hard for and just let them ride off into the sunset because they all, they basically had the power and the numbers of convincing weak-minded men to do something for them. Because that's ultimately what it was. Like, that's what I witnessed happening, was these few guys that just wanted to do the things for themselves. They convinced all these other guys, oh, this is a good idea for you too. Like, you won't have to work as hard and we'll help you still be really bad. Like, what? It just didn't make any sense. But
sounds very similar to something else we talk about often in the world that we're in now. But where are we at with the teams that are in the league? I want to know who, year one of you taking over and finally getting your mission put together, I want to know who the teams were.
Yeah. So during that, that's kind of where that moment happens. And so I'm looking at the league and it's like, dude, we got 3 teams. Like, what are we going to do with that? Right? Like, we got to create some teams. We got to figure some stuff out there and make things happen. So what had happened was one of those organizations that was in the league, they got kicked out of the city that they were in. Also kind of a ringleader of the whole coup. So they get kicked out of the city they're in. So I go to that city. Right. So I go to that city and I basically plead with the mayor, sit down with the mayor, and Dukes was helping me with some of those parts still at that point in time, and I'm just like, hey, we're not them. Give me a chance. Like, I'm going to run this thing. I'm going to hire the coaching staffs. Like, I'm going to put all the pieces together and like, we'll do something cool here. Right. You guys have a good community, you have good people, like, let me run it the right way. Right. And they got kicked out for all kinds of just riffraff reasons, didn't take care of the field, did stuff in the parking lot afterwards, like, just all the stuff that is common sense you shouldn't be doing. So they were taking a risk on me, you know what I mean? Like, I had to go and essentially present myself, had to go to city council. It was the first city council meeting I've ever done, right? And just imagine, like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Like, I'm just kind of speaking from the heart, but I'm also there trying to plead with them to give me a chance. And thankfully they did, and they I guess believed me enough. So that's when Valley Center was born. Okay, before your time. So when
But I was there in a sense.
Yes.
I mean, it
Yes.
was before my time too. So
Yeah. So that's when the Mud Daubers were born. And, so we've had a great, success with them in that city. Great host community, great people, great support. Like we've just built that year to year to year to year, and things have continued to get better there. But so that was our fourth team, right? So we had 4, and the goal was to get to 6, right? So we had 6 enough basically to play postseason tournaments. So I had a buddy of mine that played around here. I knew him a lot, just baseball community wise. He lived in Clearwater. So him and I got together and kind of the same thing, like pitched the idea to him, like, hey, dude, let's do this team in Clearwater. Good community, small community. Like it fits kind of the mold that we're trying to do, which we didn't even really have the same plan that we have now back then, but we were on the right track, just didn't know it. And so I got him, and he got excited, and we started putting those pieces together. So boom, all right, now we got Clearwater, right?
Outlaws.
Yes. And this all happened. Those 2 things happened like within basically a month of each other. Like it was just like I was all in on putting the pieces together to do them. Made that happen. So then it got a little tighter, because then I was like, okay, well, where, what, who, how do we find this last team and put those things together? And I remember talking to Dukes randomly one time, and he's like, well, if you need to use, where Park City was playing, which was Life Prep's field. And he was like, if you need to use that field for another team, just put another team there. And like, that was like a big aha moment for me. I was like, oh, wow, I've never really thought of that. Like I make the schedule, like just schedule them on different days, dummy.
Right.
Like common sense. But so then we ended up making a put together team for Life Prep. And the goal was eventually to have Life Prep kind of, take them in as a team, create a funnel system, for Life Prep and do that whole thing. That never really happened, but that team was also just a complete disaster. But there's good things that happened with that team. The few good things that were, it led us into another city down the road. But those were our 6, right? So those were the 6 that we started with. And there was a lot more day-to-day involvement getting them off the ground. Obviously some of the same functions that we still do now, but getting the ball rolling, getting things happening. And it was a crazy summer because there was just a million moving parts, and back then it was just me. You know what I mean? Like it was, so if we were running a concession stand somewhere, it was me by myself. If I was going to do something at one of these spots and we had no fans, no engagement, no nothing, so it was just, I'd take a couple Parisi athletes, pay them a few bucks to come and help me, put stuff up, take stuff down, move around, all those types of things. Like it was just at these new locations anyway, right? So when you're talking Valley and for the Marlins and all that jazz. But yeah, so it worked, and, figured some things out. We pushed forward a few more years. Some of those teams, like I said, the Marlins deal kind of fell by the wayside. We had, just some behind the scenes stuff with that coaching staff that, was not good. And so we had to remove him mid-season. So when that happened, another guy kind of stepped in, which I commend him on doing that. That led us into McPherson. So then we had the McPherson organization out there. A little bit farther away. Nobody really ever loved having to drive to McPherson. Bunch of random drama around that team as well too. That was a whole debacle with different things, not really having anything to do with us, just more of their, kind of side of things. But so that team eventually kind of went down by the wayside. We technically still have the team. Like we still have all the pieces for the team and that stuff. We just haven't found the right people to run it. Might be an expansion organization down the road, doing some different things down there, but trying to think, what are some of the other ones after that? So we get after McPherson, we've had McPherson around for the last, it's only been 2 years now that they haven't been in the league, maybe?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. So
my first year.
Yeah, so the league, we didn't really have a lot of moving parts there for a few years. It was all kind of the same teams. we had a lot of internal moving and shuffling around, new coaches every year, which I think that, that's where we started. When we kind of solidified the teams is where we were able to kind of start focusing on, what can we do to make the league operations better, right? And what are the things that we can, make happen to really turn this more into a true, league business, like make it something that's going to stand the test of time, not just a bunch of people trying to wing it and throw things together every single summer. And, so that's when, we really started diving into, what is our system going to look like, right? Like how do we essentially franchise model all of these different teams in these different places to where we're following a playbook, like we're following, all of the different business pieces to make it all make sense. And so when we started to do that, that's when things started really to uptick. Like things started doing,
This is about 2018, yeah?
yeah, probably 2019, right before you
Right,
kind of,
right when we met.
yeah,
And
18 and 19 was when I really buckled down with like, okay, I want to find coaching staffs that are going to be here for a long time, right? Like I got to figure out a way from a compensation standpoint, from, what their, requirements are, right? Like how do I go about like piecing together all of the things to find ways to make stuff happen? And so that's, where that all put together. And then, fast forward, the COVID year happens, right? So we're getting ready into all of that jazz. That's when, we really were rolling out these systems. Like that's when I was like, okay, like these are pretty fine tuned. These are the things that I want to do in all of the different locations, and they're all a little different. Every team has their own things and different things that happen there. But that was kind of when we were like, okay, let's buckle down on that. So then COVID happens, and then that's when we got to kind of take a step back. But then that was probably the next big like shuffle up when it came to like team stuff, I think. Because then that fast forwarded us to, Cannons are gone, McPherson's gone. So we kind of trimmed the fat with those two.
Liberal, Dodge gone.
Yeah, Liberal, Dodge, Hayes. That happened, which I guess I forgot about that portion of the story because that would have been in
That'd have been your 2019 COVID year.
2018 to 2019 with that. Yeah, so McPherson, I guess, back on the timeline there.
Hayes was your first domino, and then
there's
it was
too many moving parts, man. There's a lot of moving parts to the teams. So anyway, we get the league established, right? So we have our 6 teams at that point in time. Eventually, the Marlins become McPherson. Like that's really kind of the big shift that happened. When that happened, the other kind of monumental thing that happened was all of the guys that left our league, right, that went and started their own league, they then started to poach all of the teams that were in the Jayhawk, right? And they essentially just use the same mentality behind what Wellington was saying, right? So they started talking to the teams that were all closely located around them and were like, hey, you guys really want to play against Hayes and Liberal? Like, they just beat you guys every year. Why would you want to travel out there to play them? Which on one hand, I agree. Like, I don't want to do the travel either. But that was their pitch. Like, their pitch was, well, come play with us because we're good, but we're not quite as good as Liberal and Hayes. Like, we won't beat up on you as bad. And they'll act like that's not what they did, but that's exactly what they did. Like, if they really wanted to strengthen their league, why didn't they go get Hayes and Liberal and Dodge? Right. They're the better teams. They're the teams that are going to win. They're the competitive teams. Like, why don't you go get those teams? Like, if you're trying to make your league better, go get them. No, they went and got 8th place, 7th place, 6th place, 5th place. Like, they went and got the dudes at the bottom of the league and said, hey, it's easier over here. Come over here because it's easier for you guys. Like, this will be more fun. You're not going to get run ruled. Like, come on.
We'll just beat you and then take your guys at the end of the summer. You're good guys.
Yeah. So when that all shook up, that's when the Jayhawk folded. Right. So when that happened,
that's 2017.
Yeah. So you see, you got Hayesville, Derby, Mulvane at that point in time.
Eldo back in the day.
Eldo folded around that same time.
2015, 2016.
But you have all those teams that are a little more centralized. Well, they're going over to go with those guys. And then you got Hayes, Liberal, and Dodge, who are out there basically on an island, right? They're in the western part of the state. It's a little bit of travel there. And so, sure enough, who are they calling? Well, they're calling me. They're going, well, what can you do? You know what I mean? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. And so I'm pitching it to my guys. I'm like, guys, listen, this is the same thing happening again, right? Like this is, it's the same thing that they just did to our league a few years ago. They're doing it to this league now, right? So I know what's going to happen over there. I've seen how these dudes work. I see what's going on. Like I understand what's going down. But here's our opportunity to go out there and get 3 teams that are good baseball clubs. Let's just find a way to make it work. So then I start talking to Liberal. That was probably who I had the most conversation with. And then once I got Liberal to kind of see the vision of what we were able to do and try to figure things out, because the reality of that is we can't do the schedule that they want to do, right? They want to do the old school schedule where it's like, hey, we're going to come play you 4 times. You're going to come play us 4 times. You're going to stay in hotels for 3 nights, like pay to do it, all that stuff in the summertime, right? Shaking your head because you're like, dude, it's crazy. But that's just what they've been doing. They've been around for 50 plus years,
Right.
so their funding and their organization, like it's just well farther down the road than what we are. And I just straight up told them, like, listen, we want to play with you guys. We want you guys in the league because we know how good you can be, but you're going to have to agree to do it our way. And if you're not going to agree to do it our way, then you're just going to have to figure it out on your own. You guys can go independent, but if you do the independent thing, it's eventually going to just die. Like, because you don't get prioritization in an independent schedule, right? So if Liberal does a bunch of independent games, sure, they could get a bunch of low talented teams to play them because it's an opportunity. But the reality of it is like, if it rains, you're the first game off the schedule. If I got a scheduling conflict with the league team, you're the first team off the schedule, right? Like, so you're at the bottom of those pecking orders, and you're not going to get guys to play you legit if you're not in their league, right? Why would I care about if I lose to Liberal when I got to play Valley Center next week? Like, I'm saving my dudes to play in my league.
Right.
Right. So it's a bad system when you try to look at it from the baseball side of things. So anyway, I talked to those guys and go through everything with them. Hayes was definitely the biggest hurdle. Dodge, they were not too bad to kind of work with. Like, they got good guys out there and not major issues by any means. And so Hayes was just kind of the oldest, most traditional of the group. I have a lot of respect for them. They're good guys. Like, none of those guys or those organizations are bad organizations by any means, but they're older. They have the way that they want to do things. Like, they're going to, go about it a certain type of way. And essentially, I was this 26-year-old kid coming in and talking to these 60-plus-year-old men and saying, hey, sorry, dude, it's going to be my way or no. And wasn't exactly like that, but that was basically what they took from that. And so that took some time. Like, that took some conversations and some growth and getting them to respect me, and to trust what we were trying to do, because I had to create a very like hybrid style schedule to get them the amount of home games that they needed to be able to suffice, what their schedule needed to look like to survive. And so it wasn't perfect because that math didn't math, but we made it work. And so then that goes along. We had Hayes, Liberal, and Dodge, I think, for that 1 year. I don't know that we even got to year 2 with Hayes, because he's his own dude and does his own thing. Great program, does what it is. But he was essentially the entire time talking to other teams, trying to form his own thing, do his own thing. And I just respectfully told him, like, hey, listen, like, that's what you want to do. That's fine. Like, I'm not standing in your way, whatever, but I'm not going to put time, effort, and energy into your ball club if you're just shopping us around the entire time. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Sure.
Like, there's just no reason. And so I think we may have gotten 2 complete years with all 3 of them. And then the 3rd year of the agreement, actually, that is correct. 3rd year of our agreement that we signed with them, Hayes was essentially out. Liberal and Dodge stayed. And then after the Liberal and Dodge that year, that's when we were just we got to the point where it was just like, dude, the travel's not worth it. I did this because we were trying to help your guys' clubs out. And those, they respected that. Like,
that would have been year 1 for me.
Yeah. Right at the end of that, I think. Yeah. And, and they have switches and all of their stuff all the time, with their boards and different things. Cause like I said, they've been around a long time. They have ways of doing what they do. And, I understood that, but the reason that we did that was twofold. First one, I wanted to do what was right for the teams because I've been in the shoes that they were in, right? Like, I've been in the shoes where you woke up one morning and it was like, well, shit, we got 3 teams. That's all we got. What are we going to do? Right. I remember feeling that. I remember having that conversation with myself. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I knew what they were going through. So it was the right thing for baseball. and it was the right thing for the players and the teams that, are around with what we're doing. And then 2, they were good baseball teams, So, like, selfishly, I look at our league and I go, "Wow, KCLB gets to get, essentially Liberal and Hayes, who have been powerhouses around here, and Dodge, who's highly competitive every single summer and have good respect for them too." Like, that's a improvement, right? It boils back to the same conversation we had before those guys all ran off with their tails between their legs of like, dude, let's get better. Like, why are we pulling away from the work? Like, let's strap them up and like do what it takes to be more a higher level league. Like, let's bring in let's play all the best teams. Like, I don't want to play the low teams. I want to play all the best teams because then that's how you get a true understanding of where you're at. And dude, if we're losing to the really good teams, just helps us get better, right? And no, it doesn't.
No.
Yeah. But so yeah, so that once that finished up and we kind of went away there, really the only shakeups that we had from that afterwards, obviously we had, the Outlaws that had turned into the Dirtbags at that point in time. And then eventually, Cannons, going away as well too. So then it was, we were back down, and that's when we started the Moos. Which are still active in the league now, but then expanded to El Dorado. Then we expanded into Mulvane. And we still had the Heat that were involved. And then, so I mean, all good things. Those things led us into more organizations and different pieces. And now for the past, I don't know, 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. I mean, for the past 5 years, we haven't really had like a bunch of shakeup and having to, figure out what's going to happen and this, that, and the other. Like, it's been very steady incline growth. All of our organizations are doing good things in their communities. We have great ball players, great families. I mean, we just have so much positive momentum across the entire landscape of the KCLB. And it's been fun to weather the crazy storms to get us to kind of where we are today. So.
Yeah, but where we're at today, really stems from the one league and one vision and how everybody wants to be involved and help grow, because no team is going to find itself by itself.
Right.
I mean, we've really worked hard on making it a group effort to increase and increase the output and in the communities and bringing good players in. So talk a little more about that mission. I think, connecting the community through baseball is pretty much sums the whole mission up, but put it together in your words as the leader.
Yeah. I mean, that mission is what it is, but in more words, I would say it's just about being true to who we want to be in our character, and that is giving back to the support system that supports us all year long and all summer long, right? Finding ways to give back to not only the communities that we're in, but then also all of the families that essentially let us borrow their boys for the summer to play on the team, right? And how do we give back to them? How do we enrich their, journey in the game? How do we find and help them get better opportunities in their careers, right? Whether that's beyond baseball or in baseball, and just really building these young men up and helping them become better young men. Like, that's a big function behind our systems and behind what we're doing. And I think that the KCLB is doing a really good job at that. And we're just, we're staying involved. Like, we're staying in that. It's not a, set and forget type mentality. Like, we are all actively pursuing, the growth of this footprint, and we're actively pursuing the development of our guys. And I say this every summer when we do our, initial meetings with the guys and stuff like that. But every one of these teams that gets put together is so special. Like, it's something that if you don't know anything about collegiate summer ball, at least take this. These teams that get put together, they usually, almost always, never get to play together again. And so the relationships that they get to come together and build for essentially a 2-month window are some relationships that will last a lifetime with them if they buy into the system, right? If they buy into the culture and they buy into the stuff that we're trying to put out there for them. And I think that that has been the one thing that I've seen over the past, 4 or 5 years where it's like, man, we're really seeing that impact. Like, we're really seeing these communities get excited about this stuff. We're seeing young baseball players want to come out to our games and get autographs and see the guys and, the coaching staffs and that type of stuff. And I think that's the beauty of baseball. I think that's the culture of the game. I think that's why I, you know, unbeknown to me in the beginning, fell in love with baseball, right? Being around guys that were way older and bigger and stronger and all the stuff, like I just loved the family atmosphere that came with the game. And so those were pieces that we wanted to instill in our league, and I think we've done a pretty good job of doing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think the more we get ingrained with the communities, the bigger it gets. And we took a leap of faith, believing some banana ball stuff about getting a mascot and seeing what type of community engagement there is there. We started that with El Dorado, and that kind of just exploded
Yeah.
out in their community. They were just happy to have baseball back, but then in year two, El Dorado won a national championship, and they kind of wanted to throw a parade, but all of our athletes were gone. And then this past year, Wellington finally cracked it open and won a national championship. It's the KCLB has had some good competition. I mean, you had the Cannons when they were in the league; they won the national championship at the Summer Ball Showdown, and then the Dirtbags did it as well. So the competition level is great in this league.
It's funny how that works, isn't it? It's kind of funny how everybody around our circles and stuff and around the community wants to, they essentially rag on the fact like, oh, like we're supposed to be like the stepbrother league, like we haven't been the Jayhawk when the Jayhawk was what it was, and like all this nonsense. And it's like, yeah, but who's winning right now? Like
right.
when you look at the teams that we're putting together and the things that are happening and all the stuff we just talked about, like, I mean, you can't look at the things that we're doing in these communities and try to tell me that what we have going on is not super relevant, because there's excitement around everything. There's communities that are getting behind it. There's, players coming from all across the world that want to play here. Like, we have all the buzz that they are essentially jealous of, and they want to try and tear us down because we're not the same old school thing that it was, 40 years ago or whatever it
Sure.
was. And it's like, well, yeah, we're going to do it different. Like, because different is what's going to work. And most of the things that they were doing are failing now. And,
Sure.
So we're running away from those things like the plague. But
Speaking of how invested we are in the communities, just sitting here talking, I've received a text message from the city of El Dorado asking about the mascot being there for the Veterans Day parade.
Yep.
We're already planning I guess let's backtrack a little bit and just say we have a great relationship with the military and veteran communities in the places that we are. And when you somehow found the U.S. military war dogs on Facebook,
Yep.
we brought them in, and then it's just become a staple point in our league to have that specific game in El Dorado on the 4th of July. And then, we branched out and played or had the national team play every team in the league, and giving them all the opportunity to showcase their veteran impact in the communities. So, we have that going on. And then there's a trunk or treat on Friday in Mulvane. Somebody's asking me if I have somebody to wear the mascot. I mean, if nobody's going to wear the mascot, they're trying to tell me I should wear the mascot. And I don't know if I'd do that, but just sitting here talking about this and knowing that we're doing something good is nice when you're getting those messages and seeing those things.
Well, Sean, like, you coach in the league, you tell us, since you haven't said anything in a good hour, tell us something about your experience as a coach, right? I was a coach in the league. Valley Center does probably one of the biggest kids camps in the KCLB all summer long. Their kind of team culture is what we try to model a lot of the other teams around. Obviously, minus Park City, Valley Center is the longest standing, KCLB team that I've had and been a part of. So it's definitely something that's standing the test of time there. But, give a little, tell people a little bit about the KCLB, I guess, from a coaching experience perspective.
Yeah, the KCLB is a cool thing. Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, you talk about the kids camps. We always have a good showing at those.
Yep.
Even like last year, when on our side of things, we kind of forgot that we had one scheduled, and then I kind of rushed over there to help out, make sure it ran, and there was still like 20 kids there. So it was really cool. Even in the frustrations of not in ourselves, of course, of not remembering that. But I think you're talking about your struggles you had before it really got rolling, and that's really too bad because it's grown, well, quote unquote grown men treating the organization like it's not there for the players or the community. It is there for themselves.
Yep.
And it's not it's I think summer ball is one of those weird things where like it's as much about the name on the front of the jersey as it is about the name on the back of the jersey. Because if you're at college ball or high school or pros, whatever it might be, it is always about the name on the front of the jersey. You got to kind of forget about the name on the back of the jersey. But summer ball is cool because the name on the back of the jersey, it's about developing the name on the back of the jersey, whether that is as a baseball player or as growing into a good, just giving you life experience to grow into a good young man. So I think what has been really cool to watch the last couple of years, especially in Valley Center, is a bunch of young men who come in obviously wanting to get better at baseball, but then also growing together as a team and growing together, first of all, relationships that last. Because I think and I could be wrong here, but I think out of all the teams in the league, I feel like we have at least one of the top 2 or 3 like retention rates as far as like players coming back each year. So growing a culture with one another and then growing together, and and sometimes end up playing together at the same school then because they get connections from each other and everything. And then just fostering a culture to where it is about the name on the front because we're going to go help in those communities. And we're going to go get intertwined for a summer in those communities, sometimes multiple summers if you're a kid who comes back, which is always awesome. And then it's also about the name on the back because we can't forget about the name on the back because that's who we're here to serve. We're trying to give these players experiences they don't get at college and they may never get, and then give them a great experience playing ball and getting better at what they love to do, which is play ball.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, and I get that question quite a bit of, because I'm involved with all these different teams and different functions and doing different things, and I remember especially early on, it was always, well, who's your favorite team? Who do you want to win?
All
This,
of
that,
them.
and the other, and I'm like, dude,
Valley Center.
I
All
just
the teams.
I do not care who wins and loses. Like you could ask me at any given time, I wouldn't be able to tell you who's at the top of the league, who's at the bottom of the league. Like it's not my purpose, right? Like that's not what my role is, and that's not what my quote unquote job really pertains to, right? And you hit that on the head. It's about impact, right? Like that is what fuels me for the KCLB, and I also think that's why the KCLB is moving the direction it has, is because we don't have the selfish outlook of, hey, well, let's just really pour into the top team and make sure that they're on this pedestal. And like our outlook is like what Dave mentioned, is it's one team. It's the league. Like the league is the team for me, right? Everybody has to be successful, because if we have teams that are falling on the wayside and they're having player struggles and whatever struggles it might be for the summer, and they're in, contention of not being able to finish, or something's happening, whatever, they're going to fold. Everybody suffers from that. Like every single team is going to feel that. You know how many times the other league that's close to us here has, every single year, I think, like almost every single year, they have a team fold. Like every single year they're calling me, hey, can you fill these games? Hey, can you get on your schedule? Can you do this? Can you do this? Well, these guys are folding. These guys are folding. And it's like, when are you guys going to learn your lesson? Like, when are you going to open your eyes and just look at it and go, wow, why are we just cannibalizing the bottom part of our league? Because they're exactly what you said. It's they care about them. They care about their organization, and they only care about how they're going to move forward. And it doesn't matter. Like, they do not care how they make that happen. And And, I noticed that and identified that very, very, very early on. And I've just kept that in the back of my head as we've always put our plans in place and the things that we've done. Because, my goal is to hand this over to my kids one day, like if they enjoy it and want to do it, and hopefully they do, like we want to hand them something that's good and that is doing the right things and it's good for the people that we service. So yeah, that portion of things is just it's wild. It's really cool. It's humbling to look at it and just go, man, like I really do feel like we're helping people, and I really do feel like that we're making a difference in these kids' lives. And it's not perfect. Like we're not, we there's always things that we can get better at. There's always things that we can focus on and try to do better, which I think we are very critical of ourselves. Like I think we try to work on that all the time. But we're working on it and things are definitely moving. So
I think you talk about how you don't necessarily care about a winner. It wouldn't I think last year too, I was probably the most competitive year. I mean, at least since I've been here, where you don't have a team, just like getting destroyed every single. Yeah, like teams are still kind of building and coming up, but I mean, ideally for you, you'd see all the teams of 500 at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Or right around there, because that means every single team, you have a good culture in place, you have a good coaching staff in place at each team. And I think we're definitely on the right track there for sure. I mean, and then you have, you don't have teams quit 3/4 of the way through or half the way through because they're like, oh, we're done. We're done.
You want everyone to be able to beat everyone.
Yeah. And then it's because it's not about, we're not we're individual organizations, yes, and we're all trying to win the games. But the fact that we can go and be competitive with one another, that serves all the players even all the more. And I think that's what's really cool. I think last year, I mean, for sure, we're getting a lot closer to like almost shrinking the gap. It seems like between.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as a coach, I'd want my team to be on top, but which we were in the regular season. But
until you weren't.
Yeah, until we weren't. Yeah, it is cool how we're not trying to funnel everybody into one team and give them all.
I mean, that could happen, but
all the eggs in the basket. It's okay. We're trying to get every single team as competitive as we could possibly be, especially by the end of the season.
Yeah. Taking from each other. I've seen so many things. It's just
we've had players poached from our team
exactly
to go to other leagues.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you lose your host family,
it's bullcrap.
And then
like what?
And then you hear, "Oh, sorry."
So sorry, like you didn't know.
And then they want to reach out and say, "Hey, how do you do this?
Yeah.
Why do you how are you able to get into these cities, and how do you make all of that stuff happen?" Well, I'll tell you what, we don't steal people's people.
We don't steal people.
Yeah, we don't go in and try to take people away. We build up each other each and every year and make that experience a dynamic one, which ingrains with the community and the players.
Well, and just talking about culture too, it's like we had another instance where we got word from our players that another team but it was like backdoors, like real sneaky, crap. Like a player was, the coach was essentially communicating through a player, texting one of our players. So we sat down and kind of talked to those players like, oh yeah, we're not going anywhere. It's like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you build that rapport with your players and it
I also told them I'd kill them if they leave.
But easy. Edit that one out.
Clip it.
No. Just kidding. They're just good kids, and they're not going to do that. But
that's our KCLB story.
We're going to end on.
I mean, there's so many different avenues that we can go that attaches to the KCLB. I mean, the different topics that we can cover. Deep dive into what built the league and where it stands and how it's moving forward. So thank you, Sheldon, for passing that along. Maybe episode 7-1 or episode 7-2 takes a deeper dive into the teams and how they've come about and do those kind of things. But for now, let's. You guys have anything you want to close off with? I mean, we just talked a lot about baseball and those are the the love of the life that we live right now. So
Yeah, no, I think that was solid. Gives everybody a little bit of an insight of just how many moving pieces there really is, and what the history over a decade has kind of led us along where we are right now, and how the teams and all of that stuff, at least their starting points. I think it'll be a lot of fun to dive into each team individually, talk about those teams and talk about what we've done there, and that will help connect some more dots on different spots. And it's cool. We got a lot of fun things happening, a lot of fun community related things happening. I would just say, if anybody that's ever actually listened all the way to the end of one of these, there's a few out there, maybe. I don't know. But like, if you want to get involved, right? Like, if there's pieces that you're just hearing us talk about it, and you're like, oh man, that sounds kind of fun, or want to do something, just reach out, because we got teams in all kinds of different places and small communities, and we're looking for more people to help us carry the mission and carry it along, and do fun things along the way. So if you're interested in something like that, if you're a business that wants to get involved, if you're just want to volunteer, want to be a part of something, whatever it is, I don't care. Like, just start a conversation with us. Let us chat with you. Let us try and find ways that it can make sense. And, I think the rewarding piece is just how impactful it will be on some of these young ball players' lives. And, I don't think that we're ever going to change what our true intentions are behind why we're doing what we're doing. I think there's a lot to be said for that. But Sean, you want to go ahead and lead us in our closing prayer, and we'll sign this bad boy off?
man,
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day, another opportunity to wake up and speak. Another opportunity to wake up and go to work. Thank you for giving us these opportunities and bodies and minds that are capable of doing so. And I pray that, whoever kind of checks in on this is drawn to the mission that we're trying to pursue. And I pray that they are, that it comes off as a truly authentic mission, and that people want to be a part of that. And just that ultimately as we continue to say and pray, that it gets across that we are here to serve the community, build the community up, and serve young men and athletes trying to achieve their dreams. So thank you for all the efforts of the people here in this room. And in your name I pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. And that's it for episode 7, Kansas Collegiate League Baseball. Dave Bush signing off for Kansas Sports HQ.